Hello. This case review demonstrates the storm target approach for the May 12, 2023 tornado event in eastern Nebraska. This video will illustrate how Storm Target essentially targets storm hazards to provide greater precision and timeliness than the information provided in government watches and warnings, supporting better decisions to take cover when in imminent danger and not take cover when not yet in danger. For this case, we'll focus on the Omaha, Nebraska TV viewing market, shown in green on the left. This is one of 5 severe storm cases available in this video series. The Storm Prediction Center forecast had an enhanced risk of severe storms over northern and eastern Nebraska into western Iowa. We had a favorable setup for tornadic storms along a warm front, moving northeast across central Nebraska. We also had a favorable overlap of instability and deep layer shear in the same area. There was an axis of surface convergence along the warm front that would support initiation of severe storms during the afternoon, with not much support for storm formation further north and east away from the warm front. By 18Z, visible satellite imagery showed deepening cumulus clouds on the north side of the warm front, arcing across central into southeast Nebraska. This was where numerical models were suggesting severe storm initiation would take place. A large tornado watch was issued for 8 hours across much of Nebraska into western Iowa. However, the threat over the next 2 to 3 hour period was really confined to an area closer to the warm front, as highlighted by the green contour. Further north and east across the watch area, the threat was still at least 3 hours away. Our focus is on the Omaha, Nebraska TV viewing area. The area of short-term threat covers the western counties of the viewing area, with less short-term potential further east, as indicated by the green area on the lower right monitor graphic, which is suggested through the chat message. By 4 p.m., or 21Z, the band of severe storms had shifted eastward and was approaching the Omaha, Nebraska area. Note the eastward shift of surface convergence over eastern Nebraska to maintain the storms. This would lead to an eastward shift in the threat area for the next 2 to 3 hour period, covering much of the Omaha TV viewing area, the eastern part of the watch area, as shown on the updated monitor graphic and as suggested in the chat message. Let's look at some snapshots of this event to compare the official warning polygons to the likely prepare and action areas from the Storm Target Initiative. Let's start at 2:30 p.m. local time. We have multiple intense storms moving across east central Nebraska. Here we see a single tornado warning covering some of those cells. Radar itself is showing potential for marginally severe hail and wind, but there's no real rotational signatures yet on radar, so we're not seeing an imminent tornado threat. Nevertheless, for the wind and hail, the chat message suggests some action areas shown in the red shade covering the threats for the next 10 to 20 minutes, with prepare areas in yellow shade extending for longer lead time periods. Now you'll also see a storm east of the warning area that is not severe yet, but intensify and could become severe. And for that kind of scenario, we would have just a large prepare area for the potential for the storm to become severe over the next 15 to 30 minutes. This is all suggested in the chat message as shown. At 2:50 p.m., we continue to have these intense storms that only show weak rotation. There's no imminent threat of a tornado, so uncertain as to why these warnings are out unless there are actual reports of something, maybe land spouts. But in general, the main threat right now is for wind and hail with these more intense storms. And so the Storm Threat Initiative would show multiple action areas, primarily for wind and hail, possibly a brief land spout, shown in red, with the longer lead time prepare areas in yellow. We still have that intense storm up the eastern edge of the tornado warning that's not yet severe, but has the potential to become severe over the next 15 to 30 minutes. And so we have a prepare area for that, as described in the chat message. By 3 p.m., we continue to see multiple intense storms with a wind and hail threat, but still not seeing any kind of imminent threat of a tornado at this point. So we would maintain the same action areas in red, prepare areas further downstream in yellow as given by the chat message. We have a new tornado warning out east for this lone cell north of Osceola that is not severe yet and not showing any significant rotation. But there is potential in this environment for the storm to become severe in the next 15 to 30 minutes, and so we would have a prepare area for that. Looking ahead in this event to 3:45 p.m., we now are starting to see rotational signatures in the velocity data suggesting potential for tornadoes along with wind damage. And we see On the left image, an overlap of polygons, somewhat confusing scenarios to try to figure out where the actual hazards are, where the imminent dangers are, who needs to take cover on this radar image. It's confusing just looking at the warning polygons alone. Here's what the storm threat analysis would give us. We have 4 action areas in red that are shown here, covering imminent threats over the next 10 to 20 minute period, with longer lead time yellow shades being the prepare areas. These are described in the chat message to suggest what the TV meteorologist should focus on in this otherwise confusing scenario of warning polygons. At 4 p.m., we now see multiple potentially tornadic signatures on the velocity data on the right for these storms. And so the action areas, which are shown here, we actually have 2 of them related to 2 potential tornadic signatures, as well as the threat of wind damage. Those action areas are shown in the red shade, with the yellow shade being the longer lead time prepare areas further downstream, given the potential for the threat to continue beyond the next 30 minutes. We also have a weaker but potentially intensifying storm on the eastern or southeastern part of the eastern tornado warning, and we have just a prepare area for that one, given the potential for that storm to become severe during the next 15 to 30 minutes. By 4:20 p.m., we have 2 clear tornado signatures in the velocity data with this cluster of storms. And we see we have multiple overlapping warning polygons for those. The Storm Threat Initiative would show action areas as given in the red shaded areas for the next 10 to 20 minute period, with prepare areas further downstream, as described in the chat messaging. We also have weakening storms in the northwest corner of the images. In that tornado warning area, those storms are weakening. We might still have a prepare area shown in yellow, just in case the storms re-intensify, but at this point it looks less and less likely. By 4:50 p.m., we're looking at this one large severe thunderstorm warning polygon with some potential for wind and hail and maybe development of a tornado thereafter. We have 2 action areas here. One's the storms within the warning polygon. We have this new storm with a little hook feature and increasing rotation outside of the polygon to the right. It's moving just east of due north, and it is likely to produce damaging winds and could produce a tornado soon given the increasing rotation. So we have an action area for that and a prepare area further downstream, and this is described in the chat messages. So here's an example of storm threat information even prior to warning issuances. By 5 p.m., we now have a tornado warning for that eastern storm and increasing storm rotation on the velocity data. We also have a nice looking supercell further to the southwest within the severe thunderstorm warning polygons. And we have another storm further south that is not severe but has the potential to intensify, and we have a prepare area for that particular cell, given the potential for intensification. 30 minutes later, we have the development of a training pattern of multiple supercells, with the biggest one being the lead storm. You see a big hook-shaped feature on the reflectivity on the left, big velocity signature on the right. There's potential for a big tornado with this leading storm. But we also have tornado potential with the storm behind it. So we see here multiple overlapping warning polygons, but the action areas in red show the actual track of the area of danger, which is not the entire warning areas. In fact, the southernmost storm, only the central part of that warning polygon really is in danger. So it's reflected better in the Storm Target Initiative. By 5:50 p.m., we continue to see this monster storm leading the way, but the real threat is just over the western half of the tornado warning polygon, as better reflected by the action area shown in red. In fact, there's a wind threat even to the west of the tornado warning polygon that is not warned. We see the second storm behind it and the third one further to the south. Notice the gaps between the actual warning polygons. Those are actually unwarned areas that are better reflected by the action areas shown in red. Numerous reports of tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail were received across eastern Nebraska. In addition to better downscaled watch level information, hopefully in this case demo you observed multiple instances of prepare and action information that downscaled warning information, such as to cover the areas of threat better and provide longer lead time than the official warnings, especially with the prepare areas. Refer to the initiative's website, storm-target.com, to view additional case demos in this video series. Thank you.